Get ready for The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's dedicated update show. Events, businesses, and people. Anything and anyone causing a ripple in the community. And now, let's dive in to The Splash Live.
Hello and welcome back to The Splash Live, keeping your local news close to home in the Greater West Bloomfield area all throughout your work week. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft, and thank you for joining us as you can each and every day, live and on demand on Civic Center TV, on Comcast Channel 15, and on AT&T Channel 99. Find us also on the web on our website, civiccentertv.com, on Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, and on YouTube at Civic Center TV. In addition, you can always find our local programming from Civic Center TV live simulcast 24/7 on the radio on 89.3 Lakes FM and online on lakesfm.com. It's going to be a very dreary weekend in the Greater West Bloomfield area. The winter weather, the snow on the ground, starting to go away after a few days of rain. That's going to persist through the weekend. Your high today, 40, low of 34. Light rain periodically throughout this Friday. We should take care of most of the rest of that snow from those snowstorms a couple weeks back. Saturday, very similar. High of 40, low of 33. Going to be mostly cloudy to cloudy throughout the day. The occasional little peering through of sunshine, but more or less very gray and very soft, sunny day outside on Saturday. Sunday, more of the same that we've had today. 37 high, 32 is the low. The day will kick off with a rain-snow mix in the morning up to about 11 o'clock, and then at that point the precipitation will discontinue for the remainder of the day, and it will be a cloudy end of the weekend as you get ready for Lions football on Sunday evening. There's plenty that's been going on around the Greater West Bloomfield community over the past 24 hours. West Bloomfield Parks celebrated Michigan's birthday in style at the Connect Senior Center, bringing people in to celebrate another anniversary of the Great Lakes State. We'll show you some pictures of all the fun that happened at Connect on today's episode. At Lone Pine, the principal of the day, one of their students decided, let's go outside and have some fun in the elements. We'll give you a look into that, plus other ways to have some fun, examples of fun in pure Michigan. A little history lesson on today's show. A house at the corner of Long Lake Road and Middle Belt in West Bloomfield, you may not have known, used to be a place of education. We'll tell you about this building and the history of Pine Lake, and then we'll continue with our history lesson as we get ready to celebrate the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society's 50th anniversary this weekend. One of our great local historians, Helen Jane Peters from the prettiest little city in Michigan, Sylvan Lake, will join us on the program today to talk about the importance of preserving our local history. As the weather continues to cool outside and the water on our local waterways freezes over, activities will move onto the ice, but you want to make sure you're doing so with safety in mind. Some sage advice from the Keego Harbor Police Department, including their chief, John Fitzgerald, will be on the program today. Michigan Week nominations are open at this time. Deb Macon from the Michigan Week Community Awards Committee will join us on the program to tell you who qualifies for Michigan Week Awards, how you can nominate them, and so much more. Later on in the program, a very special guest on our show, a former host of our show, Brooke Allen, who's now the host of Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen, will join us to talk about her new gig, and also a special segment she did with a very close connection to us in the Greater West Bloomfield community. Plus, more stories from across our four communities and information important to you each and every day. Stay with us. The Splash Live will continue after this short break.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live. Want to enjoy Civic Center TV on your social media? Find us on Instagram at Civic Center TV. Get notified when we upload one of our interviews, full episodes, and more. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Take a break and tune in to The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Join Tyler Kieft as he goes through headlines and events, updating you on the day-to-day happenings in Oakland County. Catch us live weekdays 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Watch us on demand at civiccentertv.com. Or watch us on TV at Comcast Channel 15 or AT&T at Channel 99.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Bringing you stories and memories from Orchard Lake, Civic Center TV, and 89.3 Lakes FM. And now, back to the Splash, live.
We thank you for joining us each and every day of the week here on the Splash Live, Monday through Friday, bringing the latest news and information from across our 4 communities into your homes on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Tyler Keefe, and thank you as always for starting your day, continuing your day, or finishing your day with our program here in our local area. West Bloomfield Parks celebrated a very special anniversary for the state of Michigan earlier this week. The anniversary of our state's birthday, celebrated at West Bloomfield Parks Connect with seniors and others from across our community, commemorating the Great Lakes State with special Michigan-related snacks, games, activities, and as you're seeing on your screen on civiccentertv.com, plenty of smiles, and one of the great spaces we have in the Greater West Bloomfield area at West Bloomfield Parks Connect. A fun day of food, fun, games, and celebrating the place that we call home in the Great Lakes State. They featured some special snacks. Of course, they made some cake, but they also had other snacks and goodies from around the state of Michigan, including Faygo Pop and Better Made chips and all the Michigan staples you'd expect at a celebration of the Mitten State itself. So you can find more fun programs celebrating our local history, our connection to our state, to our nature, and more from our friends at West Bloomfield Parks on their website, wbparks.org. Registration open for many of these events as we speak, and you can also follow them on Facebook at WB Parks for updates and pictures afterward to commemorate the events, whether you were able to attend or not. wbparks.org. Really cool story we saw posted earlier on this week in the So Kego Facebook group by Chantel Hoffworth of Kego Harbor. A house at the corner of Long Lake and Middle Belt in West Bloomfield Township. You may have seen it. It's kind of unique considering the design of houses nearby in the local neighborhoods, certainly across the street, those big houses off on the lake. This used to be a one-room schoolhouse called Pine Lake School. Sounds familiar, right? Because right down the road, years later, after the one-room schoolhouse was expanded into a full elementary school in our local area, it eventually became Pine Lake Elementary. That served the Bloomfield Hills School District for a number of decades before it was eventually closed during some school consolidation and ultimately demolished and left vacant for a few years and essentially used as a community park. Now, the old Pine Lake School location, this is the former building that had been standing there for many years as their elementary school in the Bloomfield Hills School District, has now transitioned into a partnership between Bloomfield Hills Schools and West Bloomfield Parks in what is now known as Pine Lake Park. So many great amenities are coming to this park in the near future. There's a ton of detail on that and how it's going to be moving forward this year, next year, and years to come. Big improvements coming, new amenities, so many great things happening there. You can find more information on wbparks.org. In addition, earlier on in this year, just a few months ago, in late 2023, we were out at Pine Lake Park with Bloomfield Hills Schools, with West Bloomfield Parks for their Pine Lake Park dedication. You can find that full ceremony on our website on demand on civiccentertv.com. Quite the history lesson as you're driving through the community. I've passed by that house so many times over the years. It always stood out to me. It's a very cute home right at the corner of Long Lake and Middle Belt, and now you know it's got some historical connections to our local community. We have plenty more history to talk about on this program and in the coming days as well. We're coming up on the 50th anniversary of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. What they do, why it's important that we preserve our history, and how you can do that right here in your hometown. We got someone that's an expert on that topic coming up next on the program. Stay with us. Helen Jane Peters, the Sylvan Lake historian, joins us next on the Splash Live.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Find local municipal meetings at our program schedule on civiccentertv.com. Find when your meetings air live or when they're replaying on our Civic Center TV live stream. Find it all at civiccentertv.com and click schedule at the top of the screen.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Want to enjoy Civic Center TV on your social media? Follow us on Twitter at Civic Center TV. Get notified when we upload one of our interviews, full episodes, and more. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. And now, back to the Splash, live.
We thank you for joining us each and every weekday for the latest news and information from throughout our 4 communities in the Greater West Bloomfield area, right here on The Splash Live. I'm your host, Tyler Keefe. You can always keep up to date with us by visiting our website, find us live and on demand, and all of our social media on civiccentertv.com. What a great time it is in our community to celebrate and recognize our local history, not only in West Bloomfield Township, but in our Tri-Cities as well, in Keagle Harbor, Orchard Lake Village, and Sylvan Lake, all of which is collected from the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society and others in our community doing their part to preserve our history, including in the prettiest little city in the state of Michigan, where you may have seen this person on your screen on civiccentertv.com, Helen Jane Peters, the Sylvan Lake historian, doing her part to preserve the long and storied history of the prettiest little city in Michigan. She joins us now on The Splash Live to talk about the importance of preserving our local history and how you can do a little bit of what she's doing each and every day. Helen Jane, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's always fun to be here to talk about Sylvan Lake. What could be better?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story that Sylvan Lake has, and you have done your part for a number of years to preserve a lot of that local history and to also help the community get familiar with that history. And it's important right now because we're about to celebrate 50 years of the Greater West Bloomfield Historic Society, which also covers the city of Sylvan Lake. And so it kind of all goes back to one general sort of topic, which is the importance of preserving our local history. Helen Jane, even in communities as small as our 4 close-knit communities, why is preserving our history important?
Well, I wish I had started earlier because it's important for people to know what happened before we came here. And it's also important to save this history in our archives, along with pictures and stories. People love to hear stories about what happened before we were here. Another thing, they love to hear about their own house, their own property. Who lived here before I came here? And things like that. Our school, our community center, our access to the lake, our parks. It's all wonderful to save. And how did our park come about? And did we have to buy this property? We are very fortunate in Sylvan Lake that we have all of our parks have been donated to the city, which is just fabulous. So it's just exciting to me to save this history for others to read, especially down the road when when things just continue to happen, and we want to save that.
Yeah, Sylvan Lake recently celebrating its 100th anniversary as a community just a couple of years ago, and they did that at the Sylvan Lake Community Center, which people may drive through Sylvan Lake whether they've lived there for years and are going to a community event, or they're exploring, maybe moving to what is called the prettiest little city in the state of Michigan. They see that building, but they don't understand that even that location has some serious backstory to it, not just in Sylvan Lake, but all across Metro Detroit.
That's right. In 1890, I have to figure out how many years ago that was, Merrill B. Mills bought that property, and then he wanted to turn it into a resort area. But the land was out on the point, and it was a beautiful piece of property. He ended up buying all of our property in Sylvan Lake, subdivided it, and sold lots. But before that, he developed the Sylvan Lake Inn. In 1893, it was built for $25,000, which would be millions today. It was absolutely beautiful, Victorian, a beautiful building, and people came from as far away as Chicago to come and stay here because of our lake, partly, and it was quiet, it was serene. They must have had wonderful food. And the building incorporated everything. It incorporated a bowling alley and a riding range and golf course and billiard parlor, which was against the law at the time, and things like that. So that was here first. But then the inn burned down 10 years later in 1903. It was very sad. But he donated the land at that time to the Detroit Free Fresh Air Camp. And the camp was there for 55 years. The children came from all over Southeast Michigan to spend a week or two at the camp. Many of them had never been out of the city of Detroit. It must have been thrilling for them to go swimming and hiking and playing games and just having a wonderful time outdoors, without looking at cement all the time. So that was there until 1960, I'm going to say. And then the Free Press gave that property to the city of Sylvan Lake. What a gift. It was fabulous. Since it's an island, there you can see the lake on both sides of the property. 4 glorious acres on the lake, both sides of the lake. So the city determined, and actually it was supposed to be used for a community building where everyone could use it. So we took their dining hall and activities building and turned it into our community center, which we used until 2008. 2007, it was raised and a brand new building was erected. It is a fabulous building. We have the old sign from the camp that's above the fireplace, excuse me. That is in a stone fireplace like it had been at the camp. And lots of, not as many as I'd like, but a lot of historical pictures in the entrance talking about how people would about the camp and the inn. And I'm talking too much.
No, and you're not, because this is just so interesting. And this is why history is important. You walk by the community center, like I had said when I set up that question for you, Helen Jane, but then you're telling that story and you walk in the community center. You see these pictures. You don't understand necessarily just from that one image all the stories that went into that time, how this property in Sylvan Lake, a glorious place in the city with so much history behind it, how many stories there are there, and then even little affects in the building, even in City Hall, the story of City Hall. These are all the memories we collect over time and that we preserve over time. And Helen Jane, we have a picture that you sent us this morning. This is so cool. In your home, you have a closet specifically dedicated to all your collections of Sylvan Lake history that you've said you will eventually be donating to the city of Sylvan Lake. Calvin, if we can show that picture on our screen here, quick a moment. Helen Jane's Library at Home. I'll give you a moment because it's so cool. There's binders and binders full of stories that you've collected over the years about the city of Sylvan Lake, and this has just been your own work. This has been you going through, digging through the archives, learning these stories. Helen Jane, tell us about this collection and how that speaks to what other people like you and like I and like others in our community can do to protect our local history, to add to our history over time.
Well, it's really, really interesting, and it's really fun to go back and look at or find the answer to a question that somebody's always asking me. How far back does my house go? How old would my house be? Things like that. So I do have a list of from the Pontiac Library of the streets and the list of people who lived here many, many years ago in different time periods. So that's something that many people ask about. But just 2 weeks ago, my friend Maureen Morrill invited us over, my friend Sharon and I, over to her house. And she had 2 pictures to show me that she couldn't wait to show me. That one of them was of her grandparents. Let me show you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Wow. Look at
That's a picture of Maureen's grandparents. And this is a picture, trying to make it straight, of the hot dog stand that her grandfather built in front of their house. So I showed that, I scanned both of the pictures, I sent them to the Historical Society, and Sue Williams took it upon herself to drive up and down Moss Avenue where this picture was taken. Actually, this is Kego history. But she found the house and she knows who lives there. And she gave us more history about the house. So things like that are just fascinating to me, that people of what the house looks like now. But this hot dog stand was about a block off of Cass Lake, where people could get out of their boat and walk up to this house where they had a hot dog stand. Now, that was brand new information to me. I had no idea about that. But I've got 3 binders for Whitfield School, which is dear to my heart because I went to Whitfield for 7 years, from kindergarten through 6th grade, and it was the heart of our community. And that's why we want to save Roosevelt School. It's absolutely imperative that we save that school and it be used for community, because we did not have community centers when I was growing up. We didn't until maybe there's my library. Yeah, and you can see that is in a closet, and they're labeled. They are about different aspects of the city. There's one for the garden club and Parks and Rec, and then they also have chronological ones. Whenever I see something in the paper or something written, I put it in the notebook according to what year it was, so we can go back and read that. But back to Whitfield. Whitfield School was our community center. It was the heart of the city of Sylvan Lake. We walked to school, and we walked home for lunch, and back to school, and back home at 3:30. We knew our teachers like our friends, and they were there for my whole career at Whitfield. It was fabulous. So please save Roosevelt School. It's the heart of Kego too. So anyway, so that was a recent story. And I've also had 2 couples come to my house last summer, and they wanted to know about their family who lived here. Well, as it turns out, their father had been one of the World War II veterans that Mr. Husted wrote to during World War II. I had an original letter, or more than one letter, to give to them that their father had written to Mr. Husted. It's giving me goosebumps right now. Back in 1942, and they had never seen this letter. They cried when they saw their father's writing and what he told them. about his time in the service and how he missed home and things like that. So that is just thrilling to me to be able to share these kind of stories with other people.
And it's really important to continue to share these stories all across our 4 communities in Sylvan Lake, Eagle Harbor, Orchard Lake Village, and the Tri-Cities, and in West Bloomfield Township. That is exactly the kind of thing that the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society is doing as well. And they'll be celebrating their 50th anniversary on Saturday at the Orchard Lake Schools campus. That will be a 10 a.m. to 12 noon meeting presentation. They'll be getting a special award from some of our local dignitaries as well, and you can join in on that. Orchard Lake Schools Dining Hall from 10 a.m. until 12 noon on Saturday. Helen Jane, just got about 30 seconds left, and so as we wrap up this discussion, what is the number one suggestion you would make for people if they want to do their part preserving our local history?
Well, I would say pictures tell a thousand words.
Yes.
I think I've got it turned around. Anyway, that is the main thing. Pictures tell a story, and tell when it was taken, who's in the picture, and what the story is about it, because that is just wonderful. But just to share your stories, share how you came to Sylvan Lake, share where your family, your children played, about our parks, about swimming here, about boat rides, whatever. But tell it, write it down so that we can save that for the future. Because people are really, really interested.
They are. There's so many interesting stories. You can find more of those interesting stories on gwbhs.org. Submit your own in their Collecting Memories initiative. And, of course, come on out and learn more at their 50th annual meeting and celebration Saturday this week, 10 a.m. until noon at the Orchard Lake Schools Dining Room. And, of course, you can always tell your stories, too, in Sylvan Lake to Helen Jane Peters. Helen Jane, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll take a quick break on the Splash Live. Plenty more stories from across our 4 communities up next.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Bringing you stories and memories from Orchard Lake, Civic Center TV, and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. And now, back to the Splash Live.
We thank you for joining us on the Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live daily news and talk show, keeping your local stories close to home across our communities. I'm your host, Tyler Keefe. It is winter. It is ugly outside. It is cloudy. It is snowy. It is rainy. The temperatures are all over the place, and a lot of people find it tough to have some fun in the outdoors during the winter season. But our friends at Pure Michigan say that is not the case, and there's a really cool video they put out recently all about having fun in Michigan during the winter. You've probably seen it on Civic Center TV in between all of your other favorite programs. If not, let's take a look.
A fresh start lets you refocus, helping you live in the moment, where you can take the leap or take a bow, basking in the glitz and the glow of winter. Because when the snow begins to fall, you feel the excitement rise. Set your sights on a winter wonderland as Fresh finds new ways forward in Pure Michigan.
And that's just one of the many different commercials you'll see or spots you'll see from Pure Michigan celebrating winter in our community. Right in our community, the kids at Lone Pine Elementary School. It's weird to say Lone Pine Elementary School because it's on the campus of my former middle school over at West Hills. They had their own fun outside. Third grader Ethan Madison was named principal for a day at Lone Pine earlier this week, and he decided his number one goal, snow sculpture day outside. Everyone go outside to have fun, get creative, build your snow sculptures. And here's what the kids did. Creative stuff, really cool what they did outside for a little extra recess time. Now, Bloomfield Hills Schools, who posted this on their Facebook page at BH Schools, said the snow wasn't really great for packing, but kids made snow creatures. They got creative. Some of them maybe didn't go vertical, but were horizontal across the way while they were outside. And all of these pictures you can find and so much more fun from that day at Lone Pine on the Bloomfield Hills Schools Facebook page at BH Schools. Really cool stuff. Other fun we have during the winter season is getting out on the water. Look, the waterways are closed. It's way too cold in the water to get in and go for a swim, but people like to ice fish. They like to go out on snowmobiles, ice skate, play some hockey, but you want to make sure you're doing so safely. The ice on those waters is not always safe. At a recent Keego Harbor City Council meeting, Chief John Fitzgerald had a brief speech about this, giving some advice of what you should be aware of before you go out on the ice. Let's take a look what he had to say.
Don't go out if it's less than 3 inches thick. Stay off the ice. 4 inches is supposed to be okay. Is supposed to be. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I wouldn't go out there myself, but 4 inches is supposed to be okay for walking, fishing, and ice skating. 5 inches for snowmobiles and ATVs. 8 to 12 inches for cars and small trucks, though I wouldn't try it with my truck or try my luck. And 12 to 15 inches for medium trucks, and I still wouldn't try my luck with that, but there are people who do that. A reminder, if you do take a vehicle on the ice and it goes through, you're going to be responsible for all recovery costs, and there might be environmental fines involved with that also.
John Fitzgerald, some really good advice from the city of Keego Harbor at their most recent city council meeting. They also posted a graphic on their Facebook page at Keego Police with some of the different information you may need to know about ice thickness for different activities. Hey, stay off the ice if it's 3 inches or less, as the chief said, for walking and ice fishing, skating. 4 inches, snowmobiles, bigger vehicles. The bigger the vehicle, the heavier the activity, the thicker the ice. And even as Chief Fitzgerald said, just because you check the thickness doesn't mean that is a guarantee of that safety. More public safety information from the city of Keego Harbor can be found on the Keego Police Facebook page at Keego Police. It's that time of year again to recognize our volunteers in our community, many of whom even are involved when someone has some trouble out on the water during the summer, during the winter season, and in between, or volunteering in our schools, making our community the special place that it is. You have a chance to nominate them for recognition in the annual Michigan Week Community Awards Breakfast. Nominations are open now through February 16th at 11:59 p.m. And joining us is the person of Michigan Week. Number one person, Deborah Macon, will be with us about Michigan Week in just a moment. Stay with us. The Splash Live. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Bringing you stories and memories from West Bloomfield. Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's what white people think. You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to enjoy Civic Center TV on your social media? Follow us on Twitter at Civic Center TV. Get notified when we upload one of our interviews, full episodes, and more. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. And now, back to The Splash, live.
Welcome back to The Splash Live, keeping your local news close to home 5 days a week on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Kieft. It's always important for us to recognize those that are making an impact in our community out of the goodness of their heart each and every day in our schools, in our cities, on the water, and all throughout our community, whether it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. Our volunteers drive the Greater West Bloomfield area, which is why we recognize them at the annual Michigan Week Community Awards breakfast. Nominations are open as we speak, and for all the information you need to know on how to nominate people and what we're looking for in a Michigan Week Award nominee, here is Deb Macon from the Michigan Week Community Awards Committee. Deb, thank you for being with us today.
It is just a pleasure to be here with you, Tyler. And what a grand introduction. You put all the important pieces really tight. No one will miss.
Hey, you know what? I appreciate the appreciation there. Good notes. I will send that to my boss. I'll send that over to Dave after today's show.
Yes,
Deb, let's get into
absolutely.
it. The nominations are open right now, and we're looking to nominate volunteers who have made a big commitment to our community and have made a big impact. What are we looking for specifically from those volunteers? Who qualifies for these nominations?
Well, you know what? I'm going to add just a little bit because this is about excellence everywhere. And in addition to looking for volunteers who see outstanding things happening and who actually make them happen, we also have categories that highlight professionalism in the workplace, whatever that workplace might be, and who is someone contributing to the community in an impactful way.
And so if people are interested, they know someone, they hear that and they think, I know this person, that person, or that person in my school. How do they go about making that nomination?
Oh, all right. Well, Tyler, I know you're going to put up as well how to reach us, MichiganWeek.org. We are fully digital now, so anyone going to our MichiganWeek.org webpage can get more than a snapshot of our history, how we came to be, what we are looking for. And there are 9 categories in which individuals have an opportunity to have their stories told and shared broadly. And we like to think, because of our partnership with Civic Center TV, around the world.
Yeah, they do. They get recognized for all their great work, and it's a beautiful ceremony. And that kind of brings it back to these people that are volunteering. They're giving their time. They're giving their energy. They're giving their heart and their soul to their community. They're not looking for this sort of recognition. And so how does that play into why it's even more important for us to recognize them in this way?
Well, you know what, Tyler, that's just a grand way to say it, because here's what is underlying much of this work. Volunteers are the ones who see something that needs to happen. Someone who sees a change needs to be made in the community. So what we're doing also, by the way, as volunteers who celebrate the grand stories of Greater West Bloomfield, it's our whole role to lift up excellence. And we're wanting to shine a bright light on what community-based organizations, neighborhoods, businesses, local government. You pick the arena, and we've designed a specific category or way to highlight what has happened to make a grand difference. And this is also where it's really fun to be able to say, every year we pick a wonderful theme, and this year's theme speaks to the global nature of what residents, families, those who live, work, attend school here in Greater West Bloomfield are all about. We believe volunteers make the world go round. And that's the theme and what we're looking for. We have neighbors, we have families, community-based organizations, businesses that choose to contribute globally, maybe in their neighborhood, maybe bigger in the township or in either of the three cities, and also make an impact in countries around the world. And they're carrying our hearts from Greater West Bloomfield with them when they do this.
And that's all the more reason why Deb's got the biggest smile on her face. It's her favorite thing every year, Michigan Week, and it's ours too. It's so heartwarming, and you have a chance to nominate someone and possibly get them an award for their great work in our community. Nominations are open now through February 16th at 11:59 p.m. All you got to do is go to MichiganWeek.org. MichiganWeek.org. You can also follow them on Facebook at GWBMW for even more information. Deb, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break on the Splash Live. On the other side, a familiar face, a new project, and a local conversation about a really cool project. Stay with us. The Splash Live will be right back.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Bringing you stories and memories from Sylvan Lake, Civic Center TV, and 89.3 Lakes FM.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy. And if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
When you have a gambling problem, you have a money problem. Don't let your gambling cause you financial hardship. If you or someone you love is struggling with gambling, we can help. Get free confidential counseling and win your life back. Learn more at michigan.gov/problemgambling.
Missed one of our live broadcasts or one of your local municipal meetings? Check it out online at civiccentertv.com. Every meeting, show, and interview on demand. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. And now, back to the Splash Live.
Welcome back to the Splash Live, keeping your local news close to home on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. A familiar face to us here at Civic Center TV is our good friend Brooke Allen, former host of this show, who's now the host of her own podcast, Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen, which you can find all over the web and anywhere that you get your podcast. Let's bring Brooke in on the show. Welcome back to the Splash Live, Brooke.
Hey, thank you, Tyler. I'm like a bad penny. I just keep coming back.
Hey, that's what they say about me every day, and I'm the host of this show.
Right.
So, hey, they got nothing but smiles when Brooke Allen is on the Splash Live. Tell us about your new show, Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen. Really cool. I've seen a couple of episodes of this. What should people know?
Well, I guess people should know that this is a podcast that's not done, in my basement, which is flooded, by the way, because of all the rain. But it's live. So I think that makes it kind of cool, right? Because people can come into whatever location we're at and actually sit and watch the show. Another thing that's happened with it, it is women focused and community driven. I know you've heard that a lot, but that was been super important to me to kind of be out there in the community. I mean, much like, what you do at the Splash. So it's just one of the things that I enjoy interacting with people and getting to know everyone. But the guests that come on, this has been interesting. The guests that actually come on are networking with each other because it is live. So they're interacting and it's just been a very cool process. We're on our 12th episode coming up on Monday.
Wow, and it's a huge accomplishment to get to that double digits, to get all these people. It's a big effort that goes into this show. I've been behind the scenes a couple of times to see this in action. And let's get right to it. You had a recent episode with someone with a really close connection to not only our community in Greater West Bloomfield, but one of your favorites as well, Barry Manilow. Tell us about your recent segment with Robin Kaufman.
Yes, so it was very funny. I think I do talk about how I met her in this clip, but I, as a journalist and broadcaster, we're always kind of paying attention to our surroundings around us, and that also means eavesdropping. And we happened to meet each other at Go Comedy on New Year's Eve. And she had said she was the producer, a Broadway producer of Harmony. And I was lucky enough, Tyler, to interview Barry Manilow in August. It was by phone. It was amazing. And then I was able to see him in concert. And it was just, honestly, it was one of the highlights of my life. So to meet her and knowing that she was part of his, part of his show, Harmony on Broadway, was just so cool. So, of course, I asked her to be a guest on Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen. She is a West Bloomfield resident, which is, another reason why we're having her on the Splash. But it is, she was amazing, and it was just kind of a full circle moment for me with my Barry Manilow, my love of Barry Manilow.
My favorite moment in this segment, and we'll show it. We're going to show the full segment, the full interview she had with Robin on Caffeinated Conversations in just a moment. My favorite moment of that is that video of you on the phone with Barry Manilow. I thought about it, this is me if I'm meeting Grant Hill, my favorite athlete, if I'm meeting Jimmy Page. It's that, but it's also keep professional. We got to make this professional. We're still doing our job here, and it's such a cool moment, Brooke. Before we get into the segment, just take us through your feelings when you were able to meet Barry, and then to go full circle back to your conversation with Robin about Harmony.
Well, so how you just mentioned how they, you have to be professional. You're meeting someone who has been so important in your life, right? That sounds weird, but his songs have really just always meant something to me, especially Copacabana. I love that one. But just the idea of being able to talk to him and to maintain your composure. It was tough. I was having a tough time, but his PR people had warned me, don't fawn all over him. But then I think you see it in this interview. I do tell the story of what happened when he kind of opened the door for me to be real with him and let him know what a big fan I was.
Well, let's get into it. Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen, featuring West Bloomfield's Robin Kaufman, one of the Broadway producers of the show Harmony, a new musical all about Barry Manilow. Let's take a look at the full segment.
Let me tell you about an amazing thing that happened. Robin Kaufman, she is a local Broadway producer for Harmony, the show written by Barry Manilow, and I met her randomly on New Year's Eve. We were at Go Comedy, and they ask you for all of your titles. They call you up on stage, play a game with you, and of course, they said, oh, well, this woman says she is a Broadway producer. Let's call her up. So she came up to the stage, and I was in the front row, and she said, they said, well, what do you produce? And she says, well, Harmony. And of course, me with my big mouth, I'm like, that's Barry Manilow's show, because I was so excited. So Robin, that's how we met.
That is.
And you are a local, you're local.
Yes, I live in West Bloomfield.
Yeah, so you live in West Bloomfield, and you are one of the producers of Harmony. So how does that happen?
Really good question. So about 5 or 6 years ago, we found a Broadway producer, a lead producer, who we started investing with, just because we wanted to be in the room where it happens. Okay. We wanted to understand the other side of it. I've always been a theater geek, and this is the other side of the theater, is being on the inside of it. So we started investing, and of course, Broadway investments are not a good investment. It's just a hobby.
Okay.
And we've been invested with this particular producer on, right now we're up to 10 shows with him, and he called us a couple months ago and said, Harmony we need more producers. Mm-hmm. So we upped the bill, and we went in as producers. This is a very important show, and we have all sorts of connections to it. And so we became co-producers. It doesn't mean a whole lot as opposed to being an investor.
Okay.
But if it wins a Tony, we win a Tony.
Well, see, that's pretty exciting.
That is exciting.
That is exciting. Okay, so I know when I met you that night on New Year's Eve that I had told you that I was, Barry Manilow, he was the first concert I went to. I have danced around to Copacabana pretty much all my life. When people are looking and when they're not, I'll do it, I don't care. And so in August, we got the press release. Of course, he was coming in concert, and we got the press release at WWJ, and I was going through it because there was a connection with a local teacher. The Manilow Foundation had donated money to the school. And so I was thinking, oh, well, this is great. I can introduce the teacher, but that's not going to get me anywhere near Barry Manilow. But I scrolled all the way down to the press release, and it said in very little letters, for interviews with Barry Manilow, contact so-and-so. And so I sat there for probably 15 minutes, I kid you not, like looking at the email and thinking, could this really be possible, right? So I went ahead, I emailed Victoria, and went on the air, came off the air. There was a response from her that said, okay, when do you want to talk to him? And I just about died, let me tell you. It was so exciting. I was just so thrilled. I think we actually have a clip of that interview. Of course, he was on the phone, but you can see my reaction. So I think we're going to look at that right now. So he is right there saying he came on the phone, and his PR people were very specific. They said, okay, listen, we can tell you're a fan, but do not fawn over him. He doesn't like that. So just be very professional. Do not say anything that is going to make him uncomfortable. So he came on the phone, and they said, you're connected to Mr. Manilow. And I said, oh, Mr. Manilow, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And then he said, oh, don't call me Mr. Manilow, call me Barry. And I was like, game on. So I ended up saying to him, oh my God, let me tell you, you were the first concert I ever went. I mean, it went on. And he was like laughing hysterically. And so I had made a ploy during this interview to say, I said, look, I really wish I was a music teacher. And he said, well, why? And I said, well, because then I could maybe meet you backstage. So he said, well, you know what? I'm going to let Victoria know, and you are going to meet me. And so I mean, it was awesome. Yeah. So we hung up, and I had to rush to go back on the air. And then my news director at the time was waving his phone, and I thought, oh no, it's the PR people, and they're gonna yell at me because I called him Barry and this and that. And she said, when I got to the phone, she said, in all my years, I have never heard anyone charm him like you charmed him. And you are going to be meeting Mr. Manilow. So it was awesome. It was awesome. Short story, I did not meet Mr. Manilow. I was on the Cleveland PR list, and we were in Detroit, so it didn't happen. I was in the same room with him, and he walked by me. I could have probably touched his jacket maybe, but you know what, that was good enough, because I never in my life thought, my mom is here, she took me to my first concert, never would have thought that would have happened. Right. See, I even get misty about it, because it was such an amazing moment of my career. Yeah. And so for you to be one of the producers of the show, and of course the show opened in November, right?
In middle of November, and unfortunately it's closing on February 4th. February 4th.
Okay, so the show is closing, and I know that the lead, his mom is here, right?
So Pam Kornfeld, Danny's mom.
Thank you so much, Danny's mom.
Danny plays the young rabbi. Okay. And Chip Zion, who has multiple Broadway credits and Tonys, plays the older rabbi, as his older. And it's based on a true story. So the characters that are portrayed in the play, actually, one of them had their grandchild in the audience on opening night.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So, cool. I know the timing of this show maybe is what has affected it. Yeah. Has he come out and said anything? Because I know he did mention harmony in that interview with me. Right. And he said, I'm so nervous. I just don't know what to expect.
Yeah. The only thing I can tell you that he has said about it is that it opened at the Yiddish Theater about 1.5 years ago, and unfortunately he had tested COVID positive and couldn't make it to opening night, but he was quoted as saying it's his favorite thing he'd ever done.
Really? So, and you have also been in the same room with him.
Yeah, but only on that opening night, waving across the hallway.
Exactly, right. So, so do you think you'll invest in another Broadway show, or how's this looking for you?
We're already invested in, I think, 4 or 5 more Broadway shows coming up. We have a workshop coming up next month we're going to New York for. And we have a couple more coming up. I don't know that we'll ever be producers again. This was a show that really hit hard with us. It's a great story, and we have the local connection with Danny, who has known my daughter since they were in preschool together. So that's why we stepped up and became producers this time. But typically we just invest in the theater, just for the love of the theater, not because we expect to make a killing, and we're not going to, but because we like to support the arts, and I'm hoping really hard that Broadway recovers from COVID, which it still hasn't, and that the tourists start coming back in and going to see the shows.
So out of curiosity, what is your favorite show?
Oh, geez. I have a lot of different answers for that. My most favorite classic show is probably either Chicago or Fiddler on the Roof. My most favorite more current shows Come From Away, hands down. Come From Away was an amazing story also based on a true story.
So when local, I mean, obviously we've got beautiful theaters in this area, right? The Fisher, the Fox, all of those. So how often do you go to shows? Do you do it a lot?
Yes, a lot. We have season tickets to the Fisher, and this last weekend we were at Birmingham Village Players to see, what did we see?
Oh, at Village?
At Birmingham Village Players.
I don't know. What is it?
Oh, Brighton Beach Memoirs.
Oh,
and
St. Dunstan's.
Pardon?
That's at St. Dunstan's, I think.
At St. Dunstan's. Okay, so we were at St. Dunstan's on Saturday and Village Players on Friday to see Mousetrap. So we had a big weekend of theater going on.
So for local theater, I mean, you mentioned Broadway and how it's still struggling since the pandemic, but even local theaters have had a tough time coming back, but I think locally they may be almost there.
I think it's easier locally because going to New York as a tourist is still very expensive and it's still hard to justify, and the city of New York is still really reeling from the pandemic still. So people aren't going to the theater as much as they were. Attendance at Broadway theaters is still down about 27% from pre-COVID.
So a long way to come back.
Long way. Yeah, and that's why shows like Harmony aren't making any money and they have to close.
So so when a show closes like that, what happens? Is it it's just done?
They announce that they're closing, and usually that produces a little bit of a bump in sales because you got to get to see it before it goes. They announce that they're closing, and then on closing night they have a party and everybody goes their own way.
Really?
Yeah.
That is so sad.
Yeah, it really is.
It is, yeah.
It really is.
That makes me sad.
But hopefully for actors like Danny, they'll have something new to do very soon.
His mom said he's gone on audition,
He's
so
already
we wish him the best of luck, right?
Absolutely.
And so February 4th, it's closing, so that is the last absolute night.
Correct. Correct.
Who's jumping on a plane with me to go see Harmony? Can you get me a ticket?
It's an amazing show. It's based on a true story. It's the story of 6 young men who were very, very popular in Europe in the 20s and 30s. They called themselves the comedian harmonists. And they played Carnegie Hall, they made movies, they were worldwide known, big name. And then in the 30s, they were in Germany. They were based in Germany, and Hitler came along and destroyed all record of their existence because 3 of them were Jewish and 1 was married to a Jew. About 30 years ago, Barry Manilow and his writing partner, Bruce Sussman, uncovered their story somehow. I think Bruce saw a documentary about him or something, and they decided to put the show on Broadway, and it took 30 years. Like I said, Barry says it's his favorite thing he's ever done. And we finally made it happen, and it's a real thrill.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Well, I'm sorry it's closing, but he got that, right?
He got it.
I mean, he got it, so that's awesome. 30 years in the making, so that is so awesome. And it was so awesome that I met you. See, I know one thing that I've learned through my career is that you always have to kind of pay attention, right? And that includes eavesdropping. But at this point, you were actually on the stage and said who you were and what you did. So I wasn't totally eavesdropping with that. So thank you so much. I appreciate you coming, and I know that we'll keep in contact.
Please.
And I just can't wait to hear future endeavors, and especially with Danny too. So thank you for coming.
Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen. All of their episodes are on mymichigantv.com. You can also search all across social media and everywhere you get your podcast for Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen. What a great show that was with Robin Kaufman, Brooke. And you kind of mentioned it sort of directly in that interview, but And even as we discussed it before the segment, the difference between your previous role in kind of traditional media and talking with guests and telling stories from throughout the community and this format for a podcast. And so after this conversation with Robin, a local person from West Bloomfield, how does that really exemplify just how this medium, podcasting, allows you to really expand your interests and the ability for you to have strong conversations with people about important topics?
Well, Tyler, it's funny because, I don't have to talk in sound bites anymore. Right. And, we're talking 15, 20 seconds max is what we want from people usually in the traditional media. So this podcast has really opened up the door for those deeper conversations, like you mentioned. And, it's amazing what you end up learning because you have time to ask the questions that you may not have or that you may have to cut out of certain interviews because there's just not time. And then you have to really decide what's important and what's not. But in this case, that was, I think, 10 minutes almost. You're able to really explore and get to know the person. And, I'm so excited because Robin and I actually had a great connection. So we are keeping in touch. I know she's got another show that she mentioned they're workshopping. So I expect to have her on regularly as these shows get updated and to learn what she's doing. And it's just so awesome that she's from West Bloomfield.
And lastly, Brooke, you had mentioned that earlier on before we got into the segment that the main focus, one of the big focuses of this podcast, of your new show, is focusing on women and on locally owned small businesses as well. And why was that focus something you wanted to really hone in on when you created the show?
It's just one of those things that are so important to me. Again, something from traditional media, you can really have a love of something or want to explore it more. But honestly, you just can't. So you have to kind of, tone it back what you want and what you want to talk about. But like we said, in this case, I can go out to small businesses. I can go to different coffee shops. Even, we're at Bamboo in Royal Oak. Co-working space, which has been really cool. So to get out there, because let's face it, Tyler, you can have caffeine anywhere, right? It doesn't always have to be in a coffee shop. So it's just been so cool. And, we see, and the whole thing too, is that, I just saw you last week in West Bloomfield and what a great community to be able to highlight. I know I've got a lot more guests actually that are from West Bloomfield. And it's just so neat to be able to highlight them and to explore them. And especially if they're brand new, to be able to call attention to them.
And you'll see plenty more of West Bloomfield on Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen very soon. To keep up with them, watch all their episodes and watch new episodes as they come by. MyMichiganTV.com. Brooke, thank you so much for your time and welcome back.
Thanks, Tyler. I'll see you soon.
Yes, we will. Plenty more stories from across the Greater West Bloomfield area all throughout your work week. Stay with us and find us online on CivicCenterTV.com on demand for archives. The Splash Live will continue very soon.